What's up, guys? Welcome to the first video for Organized Biology. I'm really excited to kickstart this whole series off, and we're going to be going through anatomy and physiology, way from the atomic level to the molecular level to the cellular level, all the way up into the full functioning human. So this is going to be a great series. I hope you enjoy it. So first off, we need to separate out what is anatomy, what is physiology. And to do that, I'm going to break this whiteboard. I'm going to use this as a demonstration. So this is a hammer. Hopefully you knew that at this point. But a hammer has kind of a few distinct parts, right? So it's got a long sort of shaft on the edge, which is really light. In fact, if I put my finger right in the middle, it's going to fall on this side because it's heavier on this side, right? So the structure of this hammer is that it's got a long lever-like handle followed by a very heavy top with a rounded mallet section, as well as a little sharper back section for leverage. So the structure is what I just described, right? So long shaft, nice heavy head. However, describe what the heck this hammer does. I could say this is for eating, so maybe I use this for eating. No, of course not. This is for hammering nails very poorly into my whiteboard, also to take out different nails from my whiteboard that I just put up. So that would be the function of the hammer. Same thing with anatomy and physiology. Anatomy, first off, literally means the structure, okay? So anatomy means structure. And if somebody were to say to you, no, it doesn't mean specifically structure, technically it means to cut apart or to section out something, okay? So when we're studying anatomy, we're going to look at cross sections like transverse sections. We're going to look at sagittal sections. We're going to look at different sections of the body to help us understand that specific area of the body. So this could be things like size, shape, color, anything that you can describe looking at it, that would be a part of the anatomy of the structure. So say a bone, very hard, okay, dense perhaps, skin, elastic, all of those things are the structures of it. However, the physiology of it, you can guess, is the function. So physio means, well, physical, right? But physio means the function of that thing. So once again, with the hammer, the function was to hammer or take out nails, depending on what you're trying to do with it. The skin, if I was going back to that, it's elastic because, hey, it needs to stretch all the way across the entire body so that invading pathogens and other bad things can't get into it. Same with bone, it needs to support my body. So it needs to be long, rigid, dense, compact so it can hold myself up because, I'm all of 5'11" and 3/4. Yeah, no, I'm not 6 foot. I don't make fun of me. Okay, so let's move on. So anatomy, once again, means literally the structure or the shape to cut into. But when we're viewing anatomy, it's really hard to put it all together in one fell swoop. So I couldn't just tell you, hey, understand the human body, because there's so many parts. So what anatomy does is it helps us separate things out based off how close we look and how zoomed out we are. So the way I like to show this is if you drew a few boxes. So say I've got a small box, followed by a little larger box, and then finally an even bigger box. Think of this as kind of like the Russian doll set that you guys used to play with, right, when you were kids. So if we were to zoom super, super close in anatomy, what we would be studying is what's called cytology. Cytology. Cyto meaning cell, which is the base unit of all life. Ology obviously means the study of, right? So at this level, we're going to be looking at the cellular structures, the cellular anatomy of a specific tissue type. If we zoom out a little bit, now we're going into what's called histology. And no, this is not history. If so, you clicked on the wrong video. But histo refers to tissue, and tissue is a common group of cells that do similar functions. So this could be something like nervous tissue. It could be epithelial tissue, connective tissue, and muscle tissue. Those are the four, but I'm just going to roll through these quick. So nervous tissue, say you have like a neuron with the long axon and all the little dendrites, but then it all has these astrocytes connecting to it and those cell bodies. So you're looking at a whole mess of structures within the nervous system, okay? So that would be histology. We're zooming out. Now, if you zoom out even more, now we're looking at what's called gross anatomy. And yes, it can be absolutely gross, but gross means like total or overall. Think of gross domestic product if you're a financial guru. I don't even know what that means, but it means big picture, right? So now we're going to be looking at, say, a leg and a foot. That looks like Bigfoot's leg and foot. Yeah, it does from your perspective too. Maybe we're looking at the hand, maybe we're looking at the head or the skull. So this is more general overarching views. So once again, review it with me quick. Cytology, meaning cellular level. Histology, tissue level, so zooming out a bit. And then gross anatomy is more a big picture. Okay, and there's some delineation of whether or not something's gross anatomy or histology if you're studying multiple tissue types. It really doesn't matter. All I want you to understand is that the more you zoom in, the more you can get a individual basis of what a cell is doing. As you zoom out, you have to connect a lot more concepts to understand the whole. Okay? A couple more types of anatomy that I want to point out just so you have them down is what's called surface anatomy. And obviously, if you think of a surface, okay, so a surface, you are looking at the surface of my face and neck, and then you see my shirt, which is a nice blue color. But surface anatomy means, hey, if I feel right about here, oh, I can feel your Adam's apple. So, anatomically speaking, if I'm inferior to the chin, maybe about like an inch, give or take, you would find the Adam's apple. So that's based off of the surface, something you can see on the outside. You can identify something inside. Does that kind of make sense? And the other one is what's called anatomical imaging. Anatomical, meaning anatomy, imaging, meaning to make an image of. And there are several different types of imaging in anatomy. You actually should have if you've gone to a dentist. They use x rays because those can really look at bones well. If you're an athlete and you tear something, a lot of the times you will get what's called magnetic resonance imaging. That's an MRI. It's also nuclear MRI, but we took out the nuclear because it sounds like it will, blow you up. But it's called an MRI, and that helps you look at soft tissue damage and those types of things, whereas X-rays can't see that defined detail. There's also, this one's really cool. This is positron. I think it's called positron imaging. If you're looking at the brain, you can actually see the different metabolic states, so the activity of specific brain regions. This is incredibly helpful when you're looking at mental patients. If they have some sort of issue with their brain physiology, you can see the functioning of the brain based off of this imaging type. So it's a really cool one. And there's other ones like CAT scans, CT scans, etc. You can go through those on your own time. But these are different tools that we use to look at the anatomy of the body and also kind of the physiology I was mentioning with the positron imaging. So, with anatomy, usually we have a basis, and I'm going to go through a little more of the anatomical position and that type of thing, but we have to have a basis of comparison wherever we're talking about anatomy. So, technically speaking, most humans have two eyes. Most humans have two ears. 10 fingers, 10 toes, etc. Okay? Any aberration from that is what's called an anomaly. So, an anatomical anomaly. So, it's something that's off from the norm. And also with anatomy, you're going to be looking at a person standing with their palms out. And again, I'll go through this in another video. Palms out, feet straight forward, shoulder width apart, like this. And whenever we're talking about different structures, we're going to relate it to this basic anatomical position using words like medial and lateral or superior or inferior, all those types of things. So stay tuned for that. Now, let's move on to physiology really fast. With physiology, we usually study physiology, once again, is the functioning of cells. We study it in two different parts. The first one is cell physiology. So we're looking at specific types of cells and their specific functions. So, for example, if you're looking at cardiac myocytes, which is a fancy word for heart muscle, you're going to be looking at the physiology of those individual cells. What are they doing? What are their proteins doing? What's their DNA formed like? How is it moving and mechanizing different things? So that's the cell structures doing certain things. That's the physiology. So you can study it on a very micro level. Then obviously, if you zoom out, you can view it on tissue level, you can view it on organ level, but we like to categorize it in a little bigger picture, which is called systemic physiology. And when we're talking about systemic, I'm not talking about systemic issues in America right now. Maybe we'll get into that at some point. Okay, no, this is not a political channel, but system. It's a system. It's coming together. It's working as a part of a whole, a system. So these are things like the cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system, the integumentary system, all these systems that are working in conjunction with a common function, right? So with physiology, we're looking at the common functionings amongst systems to help maintain, first topic, homeostasis, a stable set of internal conditions, both of your cells and as your organism as a whole. So that's a brief overview of anatomy, which is the structure, and physiology, which is more the function. Hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for checking in, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon about different anatomy and physiology topics.